I remember in January thinking, wow, the last 6 weeks, almost every news story has had a huge amount of misinformation. Oh my goodness, 2020 is going to be quite the year. And that was before, obviously, the virus took hold. We've never had a situation where almost every country at the same time was going through the same thing and therefore facing the same rumors and conspiracies.
We have decided to monitor the news coming from the region and see if we would be able to build a coalition by fact checkers to address this misinformation at scale. Therefore, we have been able to launch our Coronavirus Facts Alliance in mid-February to build a depository of fact checks covering the misinformation around the COVID-19. There's a trend that shows the amplification basically starts more from closed messaging apps, and then they move to more semi-private or public platforms before they get picked up by the traditional and the mainstream media.
People were watching from a distance and nobody took it seriously. But then when it started to hit Western Europe and then the US, you very quickly had lots of rumors about there's going to be a lockdown. So we saw this phase mostly happening on closed messaging apps. But you saw pictures of tanks in the street. You saw rumors that said in 72 hours, you won't be able to go and get food. And that was really being shared everywhere. And that was because everybody was so nervous. Then very quickly that moved into lots of misinformation about treatments, which is you can gargle with salt water, you can put garlic in the corner of your room. These supplements are going to help you. I mean, people were trying to help each other, but there was a lot of misinformation. So we had conspiracy theories about where did the virus start from? Was it a monkey that escaped from a Wuhan lab? Was it a wet market? Was it actually bioterrorism? You know, all of this kind of stuff emerged. And then we saw conspiracies in places like UK around 5G phone masts, this idea that coronavirus was connected to 5G. And then we saw this kind of growing anti-vax movement. So we started to see people connect the idea that we'd have to have a vaccination and therefore we can't trust that vaccination. We saw the pandemic video. Unfortunately, masks are such an interesting case study on how failure to have clear information can lead to misinformation. So we now have really dangerous misinformation about masks, and we see the politicization in countries in Western Europe and Latin America and the US, where people don't want to wear masks, and that's connected to your identity.
When it comes to, let's say, wearing masks, you have to have a societal divide in the first place for any misinformation to actually spread organically. Like Hong Kong, for example, wearing masks, maybe because we had SARS in 2003, we have that experience. Here, it's not controversial. If health authorities say wearing masks would help prevent this, coronavirus from spreading in our community, then people would do it.
It's pretty difficult when you wake up every morning and there's just an onslaught of this kind of content. It's either graphic content or harassing content, or it's content that's constantly questioning institutions that we need to trust in order for society to work. And there is research on this which shows that you can do this kind of work if you're with other people and you have that feeling of, you have a mission. Particularly, many people doing this are relatively young. They're new to the industry. Many of them live alone. There's a huge mental toll, I think, of doing this kind of work. It's been a much tougher job over the last 6 months than I've ever known. The biggest concern I have for 2021 is when the COVID vaccine appears, and it will appear at some point, hopefully in 2021, how are we going to ensure that enough people take the vaccine?
Groups will accuse or aim to spread this and misinformation around those vaccines. It's not going to be surprising to see that those information operations will somehow are supported by governments or big medicine providers, companies, because at the end of the day, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
We don't have a global response to this, and we don't take misinformation seriously. We will have a situation next year where we might have a vaccine that works, but we don't have enough people taking it.